Okay, so for my fourth video journal, I want to go over episode 3 of Star Wars, which is Revenge of the Sith, which is arguably the best movie out of the trilogy, or out of all of Star Wars. This movie, you kind of get the full realization of who Anakin Skywalker is, why he's doing this, and what's going on in this movie. This movie deals with a lot of morals, actually, surprisingly, for a Star Wars movie. It deals with a lot of deep stuff that doesn't normally get touched on in the Star Wars franchise. You get to see Anakin fully in love with this girl, fully just passionate for wanting to be with this girl, and kind of going against the ways of the Jedi Council and lying and deceiving and just full on using parts of the dark side that you're not allowed to do. This is kind of where you get this play of, kind of what I would see as falling out of the faith, right? Like when somebody is a full-hearted believing Christian, and all of a sudden you just realize that he's doing, on the streets, like, sinning and doing these things that are morally incorrect and wrong, and you kind of realize that he's fallen out of the faith. This is kind of what Anakin ends up doing. He ends up falling out of the faith and ends up just using ways of the dark side to manipulate and change lots of very important effects of the Jedi Council. He also gets very, very mad at the Jedi Council for not promoting him to Grand Master, which I think I kind of take as what church hurt would be, when you don't agree with the point of view of the church, and somebody hurts you in the church, and all of a sudden you blame everything on Christianity. Like, oh, this guy said this, so that, and he's a Christian, so that must mean that all Christians are the same, and the church sucks. And that's not what actually happens. You also see how Palpatine, who is currently the president or the leader of the of Congress, basically, kind of starts to tempt him with the dark side, and you end up finding out that he's the Sith Lord that everybody's been looking for. And he ends up tempting Anakin to end up killing Mace Windu for him, to be able to turn him fully to the dark side. You also see Obi-Wan end up winning the war against the clones, but you see how all along Palpatine's been orchestrating this whole new plan to execute Order 66, which basically is turning their army against the Jedi. So that ends up, switching the war. I think this movie is borderline perfect. I don't see much of a flaw in this movie. It is a little long for what it needs to tell you, but as the way that plot, theme, morals, and any flaws in this movie, I think moral-wise, you learn so much about Anakin. You learn so much about his personality. You learn everything you need to know about Obi-Wan. And you learn about Palpatine and how messed up everything is in his head. And it's gorgeous to see. The theme of this, you built 2 movies on top of it to get to episode 3, which is the fall of the Jedi Order, which is what, everybody's been predicting since episode 1. So you get to see the theme finally come to an end. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the movie, you think that it's over, but then you get the beautifully choreographed and almost perfect fight scene between Anakin and Obi-Wan, Jedi versus apprentice, master versus student, and it's perfect. It's choreographed amazing. You have jump scenes, you have fight scenes, you have beautifully, perfect, maybe even movements between sword fighting and lightsabers, and it's just beautiful to see. I think it's just such a good movie. And as far as you see how George Lucas relates this to Christianity. He fell out of the faith. Anakin falls out of the faith. Obi-Wan tries to build him back up, and then he falls out again. And then all of a sudden, they're fighting each other. And you learn that that's kind of like how church hurt is working nowadays. And I have to keep this 5 minutes, or else I could go on about this movie forever. But it really is just principle-wise, flaw-wise. There's no flaws. There's perfect theme, perfect morals. It's just such a good movie.